For years, big brands have been ripping us off with mid-drive motors that cost way too much in commuter bikes. In my opinion, no commuter bike should be over $2,500. And Tenways probably just broke their minds. This is the Tenways AGO X. Let's unbox it. There we go. Oh boy. Tenways box with your instruction manual, some tools, reflectors, a charger, and your pedals. Definitely nicely packaged here. So this is a 36-volt system with 14 amp hours and 504 watt hours. Perfect for commuting. Nice and lightweight, not too heavy, and also easy to carry in to wherever you're going so you can charge it up. Metal fenders. Kickstand. Very nice looking paint job. Beautiful. This is a good looking bike. So that's how easy it is to unbox the Tenways AGO X. And I think that this is probably one of the nicest commuter bikes that I've ever unboxed. Now, I haven't ridden it yet, but we're gonna get to that later in the review. First, let's go over some of the specs that come on this bike, because personally, they really nailed it when it came to specs. If this bike rides as good as it looks on paper, I think you guys are in for a treat. Coming in right at $1,999, the AGO X has 3 different colors to choose from and multiple sizes. Now, the AGO X is a 36-volt system. You're going to have a removable battery right down here. And one of the things that I like about Tenways products is that they make nice compact batteries that aren't too big for the type of bike that they're making. Now, this battery can be charged on the bike or off the bike, and it includes a 3 amp charger. Now, like I was saying, this is a 36-volt system with the 14 amp hour battery, but this has a mid-drive motor. This is something that we haven't seen in a lot of brands under the $2,000 price point, but I have a feeling 2025 we're gonna start to see a lot, and Tenways has one of the first ones that I've seen on the market. This has a Bafang M410 motor, and that's gonna produce 250 watts, and it's also gonna have 80 Newton meters of torque. And just to kind of give you an idea, the mountain bikes that I ride, they have 250 watt motors at 85 Newton meters. And those are designed to go up some really rough terrain. So a commuter bike with this much power can definitely conquer some hills. Now, this bike is a class 1 e-bike, so you're not gonna have a throttle, and it's gonna have a maximum speed of 20 miles an hour. So other than the motor, there are several things that make this bike completely stand out amongst its competition. One is the SR Suntour XCM32 fork. Typically, we don't see name brand forks like this on commuter style bikes, but Tenways did it right. This Suntour fork is a really nice commuter fork. You've got a preload adjustment on one side, and then you've got a lockout. This will also have a quick release skewer, so if you need to take the front wheel off, it's really easy. You don't need any tools to do that. So there are 2 other things that I think make this bike extremely special, but I want to get to those here in just a minute. Let's quickly go over some of the fine details on this bike. So as far as the seat goes, they went with a Ciela Royale seat. These are kind of nicer seats, a little bit cushiony, really good for commuting. You do get a nice rear rack on here with a built-in taillight, and they even included some bungee straps to strap down whatever you want to put on this rack. You are going to get some metal fenders, both front and back, so those are going to be super durable. The tires on here are going to be CST tires, and I really like these because they have the reflective sidewalls, and they fit this style of bike really well. They've got a tread that's not super aggressive, but also not super slick. So it's going to be really good for those commutes where you might have to go through puddles or possibly rain. Now, on the cockpit up here, you are going to get something kind of unique, some foam grips. I haven't seen these come on a bike. Most of the time you have to purchase foam grips separately, but Tenways went with foam grips on these. The nice part about foam grips is that it does kind of like absorb some of the vibrations that come from the road. So you're gonna have a nice, comfortable ride. They're dual lock-on also. Now, one of the things I think is really cool is I love this display. I have used this similar display on other bikes, and what I like about it is it gives you all the important information and not too much. It's easy to read out in the sunlight. It tucks itself behind the handlebars next to the stem, So if you do get into an accident, this is not gonna get damaged as easily as what it would if it was out front or on top of your bike. Now the control panel up here is really simple, and that's how most e-bikes should be, and I really like that they did this. It's just gonna have a simple power button, a plus button, and a minus button. And if you wanna turn on the headlights, all you have to do is hold down that plus button. Okay, so on to the two things that I think are really impressive on this bike. Let's go ahead and let's start with the brakes. These brakes are Shimano brakes. Most brands out there do not spec their bikes with name brand brakes. Tenways went all out on this. They put Shimano hydraulic brakes on here. You're gonna have 2 piston calipers, front and back. You're gonna get a Shimano 180 mil rotor up front and a Shimano 160 mil rotor in the back. What's nice about this is that these can be serviced really easily by any bike shop that you could ever come across. Now, the next thing that I was extremely pleased with is the fact that they went with a Shimano Q's drivetrain. It's gonna have 10 speeds. It's gonna have a thumb and trigger shifter, which is really nice to see. It's equipped with Jaguar cable housing. And also it's got a Shimano Q's rear derailleur and cassette on the back. And this isn't just a standard old cassette. This is an 11 to 48 tooth, and it's their link glide system. So this thing is going to shift really, really well. The Q system only came out a few years ago, so we haven't seen it on a lot of bikes that are gonna be under $2,000. All these parts, the Shimano brakes, the Shimano Qs, the SR Sun Tour front fork, the CST tires, and the Bafang motor, tells me that Tenways is really trying to hit one out of the park. And when you compare this to Trek or Specialized in their commuting style bikes, this thing is just crushing it on paper. But there's one last thing that we need to do to put the nail in the coffin to determine whether Tenways just made the ultimate commuter bike under $2,000, and that is to get out and ride this thing. So one thing you'll notice about this bike is that the Shimano Q's rear derailleur actually has a clutch built in. This is brought over from mountain bike technology. Essentially what it does is it allows the derailleur to stay tensioned. So when you hit bumps, the chain doesn't flop around. This also helps keep your chain on your bike a lot better. If there's one theme I'm gonna give this bike, it's light. This bike feels incredibly light. To me, it feels like a regular bike, but with the power of an e-bike. The mid-drive motor really does kind of even out the weight because it puts it really low and it puts it in the center of the bike. So you're gonna have regular wheels, both front and back. Typically with a lot of bikes that I've reviewed with the rear hub motor, you get a real sense of how heavy the back end is in comparison to the front. But with this one, it seems really evened out and it feels and acts and maneuvers just like a normal pedal bike would. Now, this is the third Bafang motor that I have reviewed that's a mid-drive, and I've got to say, this one is probably my favorite already. It delivers a smooth amount of power and plenty of power. Again, the 80 to 85 Newton meter range is by far my favorite power range when it comes to mid-drive motors, just because it's not too much. Too much power can definitely be overkill. And that happens a lot on the higher end Bafang motors, but this M410 feels just right. Change this over to miles per hour. All right, let's start off with pedal assist 1 and see how it does. Now, as of right now, there doesn't seem to be a limitation in the top speed when it comes to your pedal assist. So we'll have to try each one out from a stop. It's still pushing me and I'm going 18 miles an hour. I'm almost up to that 20 that it cuts off. I can feel it pushing, but it's not giving a lot of power. Just enough to kind of make it feel like I'm not having to put much effort in. Oh yeah, you can tell the acceleration difference. Let's just put it in 3. Yeah. So each pedal assist will go up to 20 miles an hour max, but each one gives you a little bit more power. Now, pedal assist 5 will be really good if you're at a tricky intersection and you just want to get through that intersection and you don't want to mess with kind of a slower pace. You can bump it up to 5 and zoom through it and then put it back down to whatever pedal assist you want, or just leave it in 5. Now, the other word that I would describe this bike is smooth. This thing is very quiet and it's the lightness gives it a smooth ride. The bigger wheels These, I believe, are 29-inch wheels, and these CST tires feel really, really good. I love this display. It's just nice and kind of subtle, but it's displaying the information that I need. This bike is just really, really calm and peaceful. Ugh, this water is nasty. All that runoff from the house is being built. Yeah, this is the perfect like city style commuter bike. If you're wanting to do the pedaling yourself, you're not going to want to have a throttle. If you want a class 1 e-bike, this thing is very, very nice. So the Q's shifting is working really, really well. That clutch derailleur is awesome. The motor does have a slight whine to it, but that's pretty typical for a mid-drive motor. And even hub motors, they do have quite a bit of sound too, all depending on whether they're geared or non-geared. But I would say this isn't a loud motor at all. I would rate it as probably one of the quieter mid-drives. Shimano brakes. Now, whenever you get your brakes, you want to make sure you bed them in, because the brakes do feel a little soft at first, but after you bed them in and use them, they start to bite a little bit harder. These particular Shimano brakes I've used on a lot of mountain bikes, and they are high quality brakes. The grips are super comfy too. Man, this bike really does have get up and go in pedal assist 5. I would say that this is probably as close as you're gonna get to a normal bike with a motor. Okay, here we are at the hill. We don't have any throttle, so we're just gonna put it in pedal assist 5. We've got about 43% battery. We're gonna see how well this bike does climbing this big hill. Remember, this is a 19% grade at the very top. So this is gonna give this bike the ultimate challenge. If you live in a hilly area, this is definitely the test you're gonna wanna watch, because this will determine whether or not this bike is good for hills. Unfortunately, I have my shifter mounted where I can't see the numbers, but we're gonna, wrong way, get this thing going. Gonna do an easier gear. Messed up the shifting there. See if it can recover from it. Could be kind of hard for it to do. Now remember, this is a class 1 bike, so it's designed for exercise, but assistance at the same time. Can really hear that M410 motor working. This is a 19% grade. Typically my judge is 10 miles an hour for hill climbing. And we haven't quite hit that. We're down to 7. But again, this bike feels like a normal bike, but it's just helping me up these hills. So we did drop down to 6.9. And honestly, this thing's doing really well. It's not a speed demon, but that's not what this style of bike's all about. I still think that this bike did really good climbing that hill. With a class 1 e-bike, you're not gonna get a free ride. That's just the way it is. If you want a free ride, you're definitely gonna have to go with a class 3 e-bike. With a class 1, it's meant to give you just a little bit of exercise and then assist you. And that's exactly what it did going up that hill. So there you go. That's the Tenways AGO X. And I've got to say, this is by far one of my favorite mid-drive commuter bikes that I've ever ridden. It's super quiet, has a nice sized battery, and the parts on this are absolutely premium. All the other big box brands should be worried about companies like Tenways coming out with a bike just like this. So if you guys want to pick up your very own AGO X, definitely check out my links down in the description below. But as always, get out there and ride your bike.
I got you yelling SOS, thought you was a threat. I do real life, do no tip for tat on the internet.